Hello and welcome. You're watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Here's a look at what's lined up for you on the show tonight. Our cover story tonight is about a threat that the world needs to sit up and take note of. It is a threat that has sent shockwaves around the world. At the heart of this story lies a mysterious shipment. What kind of shipment? I'm talking about a shipment that came in from Pakistan and has left the big question behind. Is Pakistan exporting nuclear terror? This shipment was detected at the Heathrow airport and brings the concerns over the nuclear black market back into focus. That's our top focus tonight as we dig deeper and get you the bigger picture. Also on the show tonight, the Wuhan virus nightmare in China is only getting uglier. Crematoriums are witnessing a rush, long lines. Funeral homes are also witnessing those lines. The country's rural parts are bearing the brunt. As the US tries to tame the dragon, it wants more anti-ship missiles in Japan, thanks to China's belligerence. We tell you what that's all about. Bangladesh is importing spyware from Israel, and this is despite a ban. We tell you what's brewing. America's worsening opioid crisis is now grabbing headlines once again, thanks to a substance that's causing severe wounds that caused limb amputation in some cases. Is Pakistan exporting nuclear terror again? What I'm about to tell you next may sound scary, but because it is, it's something dangerous that was recently found in London's Heathrow airport. I'm talking about metal contaminated with uranium. What is uranium? Uranium is essential to the production of nuclear weapons. So, to put it simply, uranium is a silvery grey metal that's used as fuel for nuclear reactors. This bit of uranium, perhaps the world's most dangerous metal, was found at one of the world's busiest airports, Heathrow, in London. The uranium was part of a shipment of scrap metal. It came in a passenger flight from Oman. But the shipment was not from Oman. It originated from another country. Any guesses? Pakistan. Now, are you surprised? I am not. And I'll tell you why. You see, Pakistan has a long history of exporting nuclear terror. I'm happy to give you a crash course. Let's start by introducing you to this man. His name is A.Q. Khan, Abdul Qadir Khan. In Pakistan, he is a national hero. They call him the father of Pakistan's nuclear bomb. The truth is, A.Q. Khan was also a criminal, a nuclear criminal. He stole nuclear information from the West to help create the Pakistan nuclear bomb. In addition, Pakistan got the blueprints for the Chinese nuclear bomb that was tested in 1966. And what did he do with the information? He helped the Pakistan bomb, of course. But in addition, A.Q. Khan set up a nuclear black market, a nuclear bazaar. It's quite a story. A.Q. Khan was selling nuclear technology and equipment. Khan made his first big sale in the year 1987. He struck a deal with Iran for $3 million. The deal was reportedly closed in the Gulf. He went on to sign deals with North Korea, Libya, possibly other countries as well. In Pakistan, Ayub Khan was the face of the country's nuclear program. His name was synonymous with the project. But he was also smuggling nuclear material through networks in over 20 countries. Buyers could shop for nuclear expertise, elements like uranium, nuclear technology. Ayub Khan put Pakistan's nuclear technology up for sale. It's funny how the country still hails this nuclear smuggler as a hero. He raked up hundreds of millions of dollars for himself. His racket prospered through the 1980s, going into the 90s. He could not, of course, keep this operation secret from the world's most important intelligence agencies like the CIA. They began monitoring his movements. Ayub Khan was found to be frequently traveling to multiple African countries: Kenya, Mali, Morocco. A memo by a UN inspector, in fact, found that Khan had also made offers to Iraq. His men met Iraqi intel officers. His network was finally publicly exposed in 2003, although intelligence agencies had been aware of his dangerous game earlier under international pressure. Pakistan's dictator President General Musharraf finally removed Ayub Khan from his post as the head of the Pakistan Nuclear Agency. This was in 2004. He was placed under house arrest, a very comfortable house arrest, I may add. Pakistan ultimately pardoned him. Ayub Khan died in October 2021. But did the nuclear black market die with him? Or is the incident at Heathrow pointing evidence that this hyper-dangerous nuclear market is still alive? So coming back to the question, is Pakistan exporting nuclear terror again? Is it arming non-state actors with dangerous technology and complex engineering? The UK has opened an investigation. Its counter-terrorism team has been roped in. So far, no names have been given out. This particular shipment containing uranium happened to have been detected during a routine screening at Heathrow. Now, we do not yet know if this was part of a much larger smuggling chain. What if they have been going undetected? The UK's present response is predictable because no one wants to create a public scare. British authorities say there is no threat to the public and that the amount of contaminated material is extremely small. Two things here. One, of course, the UK will not want to create panic or cause a rift in its relations with Pakistan. It will try to play down the incident. So it says, and I quote, "Although our investigation remains ongoing, from our inquiries so far, it does not appear to be linked to any direct threat, as the public would expect. However, we will continue to follow up on all available lines of inquiry to ensure this is definitely the case." But why have all available lines of inquiry been opened if this is an insignificant incident? There is clearly much to worry about. And here's a question. How long does it take for a small amount of uranium to become a significant amount? How do you make nuclear weapons from uranium? Well, centrifuges play a major role here. These are machines that spin at supersonic speed. You use centrifuges to refine uranium. 20% purity means that uranium can be used in research reactors, and if it is a 90%, then uranium is weapons grade. The UK knows this too well. The country played a major role in exposing Ayub Khan's nuclear black market. So the UK understands that incidents like these hint at something bigger, dangerous. It is saying that there is a possibility that the contamination is a result of mishandling. But such wishful thinking will be delusional. After all, Pakistan has a unique track record, you see. It is the only nuclear power in which the highest officials have been caught exporting nuclear terror. It is not in a position to claim benefit of any doubt. Pakistan claims the reports are not factual. What that means, we don't know. But the British and Americans know what the shipment means. And you can tell this by the fact that the UK has put all hands on deck. The Metropolitan Police has been roped in while its intelligence agencies work behind the scenes to, in fact, the British Home Office is also tight-lipped. The Anti-Terror Command is leading the investigation. Also, the shipment was seized on the 29th of December, 2022. The UK kept the discovery confidential and secret for almost 2 weeks. They realized in this fortnight that the incident was dangerous enough for public disclosure. It would have been irresponsible to hide it under some official carpet. And this is a wake-up call for the West. The West tries its best to help Pakistan through its unending cycles of economic crisis and political instability. Right now, it is responding to Pakistan's cry for help, pledging billions of dollars. The doubts are being kept hidden. How much of the money which finally reaches Pakistan will actually be used to help the poor? How much of it will disappear in waste or straight out corruption? Will it really be used for rebuilding flood-hit Pakistan? Or will it be used to build the country's terror portfolio? Also, let me tell you this, A.Q. Khan was the face of the nuclear black market. But he wasn't a lone wolf. According to a Congress Research Service report, back in 2000, the Pakistani government advertised nuclear gear for export. The ad included gas centrifuges and said that the items would quote-unquote be useful in a nuclear weapons program. Analysts believe the Pakistani government was hand in glove. This was the unbelievable level of complicity. And what happened in Heathrow could be evidence that Pakistan is still the chief supplier to the nuclear underworld. And speaking of things that need a closer look, let me show you some satellite photographs. What do you see here? A town. That's right, it is a Chinese town, Kunming. This is where it is located, in the Yunnan province. Let's go back to the photo. Do you see a crowd on the left side of your screen? These people have gathered around a funeral home. They are here to bid goodbye to their loved ones. It's hard to say how many of them died because of the Wuhan virus, but a lot of them clearly did. And I will tell you why I say so. Because experts compared this satellite image to the ones taken previously of this same space, and they found the crowd to be unusual. It just so happens that the increase in the number of people around the funeral homes coincides with the rise in the Wuhan virus cases in China. It is a wave that China denies. But pictures here are speaking for themselves. Let me show you a fresh set. These are images of a funeral home located in Beijing's outskirts. This one was taken on the 6th of December 2022. And this one on the 24th of December. Do you see a difference here? The funeral home has an extended parking lot. What for, you wonder? To make space for the incoming traffic, of course. And these are photos from Nanjing in Jiangsu province. On the 9th of November 2022, this funeral home's parking lot was empty. But on the 3rd of January, it was crowded. It so happens the crowd coincided with China's desperation to hide an outbreak. This is a funeral home in the Zhejiang province, and again you see a similar trend. In January 2021, the parking lot was empty. Cut to January 2023, it's a full house. There are similar photographs from Sichuan, Hebei. These images tell the story that China has been trying to hide. It's a story of deaths, COVID-19 chaos, and lies. China says only 37 people have died of the Wuhan virus since the 7th of December, and 5,000 have died since the beginning of the pandemic. For some reason, China expects us to believe that number. At WION, we know better. We have been telling you stories from Shanghai. where 70% of the residents are reportedly infected. We also told you about Henan, where 90% of the residents are supposedly down with the Wuhan virus. Analysts believe that the COVID-19 wave is now moving away from Chinese cities and it is moving towards the rural areas. The part of China where factory workers and laborers returned following the outbreak of the Wuhan virus. Reports say the rural areas are a mess. People are rushing to the healthcare centers, but the clinics and hospitals are understaffed. There aren't enough resources and doctors are being forced to work for 14 hours a day. The head of a clinic told the media that the medicine supply is depleted to the extent that the clinic has had to suspend the prescription. A doctor says the waiting rooms are full and Wuhan virus patients are being forced to line up outside the medical facilities. It is a double whammy, really. There is the Wuhan virus, and there isn't enough resource to fight it. The elderly are being hit the hardest. One village doctor said that he alone knows 50 people in his village who have died since the start of December. Yet, China maintains the death toll since December is 37. It would have been funny had it not been so tragic. China needs to stop cooking stories and start focusing on the crisis at home. It should at least try to address the problem. Instead, it is bullying neighbors in its spare time. China has stopped issuing short-term visas to South Koreans and the Japanese. We told you about this yesterday, how the move was in retaliation to the two countries stepping up border controls to ensure that the infected Chinese tourists are not given a free run in the country. And now, South Korea has called the Chinese punitive measures, quote-unquote, significantly regrettable. Seoul also asked China to align its pandemic steps with scientific and objective facts. Well, if you ask me, this is asking too much of China. Let's look at how the Japanese responded to the visa ban. Tokyo calls the Chinese move one-sided because China is banning entry for the Japanese on non-COVID grounds.
It's very regrettable that China has unilaterally taken visa suspension action for reasons beyond virus control. We have lodged a protest to China through our diplomatic channel and asked them to lift visa suspension. Our country will monitor the COVID-19 situation in China and its information disclosure and will respond appropriately.
And as the war of words plays out, the WHO, that we lovingly call the China Health Organization, has asked the travelers to guard up and mask up. Is this the WHO putting its weight behind what we have been saying for weeks now? The reopening of the Chinese border has risked a reinfection, that Chinese travelers have become a threat to others taking a flight, that China has put tourists around the world at risk. Yesterday, we told you why you should cancel or postpone your trip to Thailand. And here's an update to that story. Did you know Thailand sent 3 ministers to Bangkok's airport to welcome passengers of the first Chinese flight? It's unheard of. Basically, Thailand is rolling out the red carpet for the Chinese tourists to come infect the people of Thailand and everyone else visiting the country. What would happen if China invades Taiwan? We have discussed this earlier on this show, and one obvious conclusion was that Japan would be dragged in. And the country realizes that, which is why it is increasingly boosting its capabilities in case its neighbor decides to wage a war. And now China has renewed its long-standing threat to attack Taiwan. It has warned foreign officials who interact with the island that they are playing with fire. Japan does not have formal diplomatic ties with Taiwan, but the two share close unofficial relations. And China's recent warning has only intensified the pressure on countries that support Taiwan. Japan is America's most important ally in the Indo-Pacific.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's a great pleasure.
And both the countries are deepening their strategic partnership in the face of the dragon's intensifying threats. How exactly are they doing that? Let me tell you. The US plans to significantly increase its anti-ship missile capabilities in Japan. It aims to make Beijing think twice before initiating any conflict. While the number of American troops in Japan will not change, they will for sure be strengthened. The anti-ship missiles would arrive in Japan under a revamped Marine Corps regiment. US officials say the regiment will focus on advanced intelligence, surveillance, and transportation. A separate US Army company of around 300 soldiers and 13 vessels would also be deployed by this spring. The ships will help transport US and Japanese troops along with equipment and ammunition. This is meant for more rapid dispersal of the forces. The Japanese Premier Fumio Kishida is all set to meet the President Joe Biden at the White House, and his visit comes as his political standing wavers in his country. But Biden is more than willing to give his loyal partner a boost. After all, Japan has been the first Asian country to join the West in sanctioning Russia. Kishida has even risked China's anger by openly speaking about its aggression towards Taiwan and how it could lead to conflict in Asia. Japan is essentially aligning with the United States, in many ways like a NATO ally, and the Biden administration seems quite happy with it. The agreement between Japan and the United States follows nearly a year of talks, and it comes just a month after Japan unveiled a military buildup. In fact, its biggest one since the Second World War. The sweeping 5-year plan was once unthinkable in the pacifist country, but concerns about Beijing's actions in the region and its increasing terror over Taiwan have fueled this military boost. And Japan has been watching China's belligerence with growing concern. It has gone back on its post-war pacifism. The country simply has a self-defense force. It is by far unprepared for any war, but Japan has decided to change that. It is picking up weapons. It is revamping its national defense. And Russia has already set a benchmark by attacking Ukraine. If anything, Japan sees it as an encouragement for China to start a war of its own. So how exactly is Japan dealing with this? It is, of course, deepening ties with the US military vessels will be deployed as early as this spring. And on top of that, Kishida aims to double Japan's defense spending till 2027. The country would be spending 2% of its GDP on national security. He also announced a 20% increase in the defense budget for 2023, and this amounts to $55 billion. $55 billion. This makes Japan the third biggest military spender. And I hope you realize that this is a pacifist country we are talking about, so you can only imagine how seriously Japan is taking China's threats. Japan and Taiwan share concerns about China's increased military activities. Beijing shamelessly flaunted its military power when the then US House Speaker Nancy Pelosi visited Taipei. It launched 5 missiles into the sea close to Okinawa during the military drills. Okinawa is Japan's exclusive economic zone. Japan hosts 18,000 US Marines, and most of them are stationed on the main Okinawan island. The bases stretch along the edge of the East China Sea. Some are barely 100 kilometers away from Taiwan. And if China decides to advance towards the island, which is highly likely, Japan would be bearing serious losses. But it is bracing up. Its ally, US, is there to save the day, and China is watching closely. The Chinese Foreign Ministry has in fact already issued a warning. It says the US-Japan military cooperation should not harm any third party's interest. It should not undermine peace and stability in the region. And that is quite rich, coming from a country which has triggered such defenses to begin with. Let's now turn to Ukraine. It is day 322 of that war. A private Russian army claims to have captured a Ukrainian town. You may have heard of the Wagner Group. That is the private army I'm talking about. As for the Ukrainian town, it is called Soledar. Our next report getting you the complete story. Take a look.
Russia claims to have made an advance in its war with Ukraine. The Kremlin insists it has captured Ukraine's eastern town of Soledar. This is where it is located on the map, in the Donetsk region. The announcement was made by the head of the Wagner mercenary group.
Wagner units have taken control of the entire territory of Soledar. A cauldron has been formed in the center of the city in which urban fighting is going on. We will report the number of prisoners tomorrow.
Then came this claim from the Russian Defense Ministry.
The Russian forces liberated the Pidorodny settlement in Donetsk's People's Republic. The Russian airborne units blocked Soledar from the northern and southern parts of the town.
It's a claim Ukraine vehemently denies. But why is Russia after this small town? Soledar's pre-war population is just over 10,000. It's a very small town, but extremely strategic. Soledar is just 10 kilometers from Bakhmut, which happens to be the city Russia has been fighting to capture for months now. The battle in Bakhmut has become so bloody that it is being dubbed the meat grinder. Capture Soledar helps Russia intensify its assault on Bakhmut. Also, there's an added advantage. You see, Soledar has salt mines. These mines are up to 300 meters deep, and they come with tunnels that have a combined length of 300 kilometers. Capturing Soledar gives Russia the control of these salt mines. What will Russia do with them? Perhaps mine the salt, but more importantly, use the mine as a safe storage for ammunitions and weapons. That said, it's too early to say who really controls this little town now.
The town is under the control of the Russian Federation. There are fierce battles going on now. You have just shown on screen actor Dmitry Lenartovik, a Ukrainian hero.
What we know is that officials in Britain's Ministry of Defense recently said that they expect Soledar to come under Russian control soon. The latest photos show a raging battle. The war has now entered its 322nd day. Earlier today, Russia's Human Rights Commissioner said that the two sides have agreed to a prisoner swap. At least 40 prisoners will be exchanged in the coming days. What happens after that is anybody's guess. The European Union says it is preparing for a long battle.
Israel and Bangladesh. The ties between the two countries remain sour. Bangladesh does not recognize Israel as a state, nor do they have any diplomatic ties. And yet, they were involved in controversial trade. Official government documents and international export records showing that Israel sold advanced surveillance equipment to Bangladesh. And the equipment is used to intercept mobile and internet traffic, meaning it can monitor the mobile phones of hundreds of people simultaneously. It was sold to the National Telecommunication Monitoring Center by Israel. Note that the MTMC is an arm of the Bangladeshi Interior Ministry. It is Bangladeshi government's largest legal interception system. It is known for tracking internet and social media use in the country. It is responsible for online censorship and eavesdropping on the citizens. Bangladesh does not recognize Israel as a state, and it cites Israel's occupation of Palestinian lands for that. It prohibits business with any Israeli entities, and in return, Israeli companies are also formally banned from trading with Bangladesh. But despite that, the South Asian country purchased Israeli spy technology not once or twice, but 4 times between 2019 and 2022. The spyware was worth over $12 million. And that's not even all. Bangladesh Military Intelligence and Paramilitary Force Rapid Action Battalion also made such purchases. This was in 2019 and 2021. They bought mobile phone interception and hacking tools from 2 Israeli companies. According to reports, the largest purchase was of a spy van, which was worth $5.7 million. The van can gather data from mobile phones. It can steal Facebook and WhatsApp chats, contact lists, calls, text messages within a radius of about half a kilometer. The spy van was part of a spy system called Spearhead. It was produced by a firm called Pastora, which is controlled by an Israeli businessman and former intel commander. The Spearhead system was delivered from Switzerland to the Bangladeshi capital Dhaka. The supplier was Pastora and the buyer was NTMC. In other words, do you see what's happening here? A veteran of Israeli intelligence and cyber units selling spyware around the world without any oversight. And countries like Bangladesh are buying it. We cannot ignore Bangladesh's reputation for human rights violation. The security agencies that received the spyware have been facing many such charges. Rapid Action Battalion has been America's target since forever. It has faced sanctions for its alleged role, torture and disappearances of thousands of people. So let me set things straight for now. First of all, Bangladesh is openly critical of Israel. Its citizens are forbidden from traveling to Israel. Until 2021, its passport said this passport is valid for all countries of the world except Israel. It says it will not recognize Israel as a state until there is an independent Palestine. But these loud statements seem to have gone for a toss, and Bangladesh's government engaged in business with Israeli companies. What does that even mean? It means Bangladesh's hypocrisy is on display. In 2021, the country dropped "Accept Israel" from its e-passport secretly, and this led people to speculate that Bangladesh was ready to normalize ties with the West Asian country. But when asked about it, Bangladesh's foreign minister said that the country has not changed its position towards Israel. He announced that no one from Bangladesh can visit Israel, and if anyone does, legal action will be taken against that person. All this while the country was secretly trading with Israel, or at least with companies that had links with Israel. Secondly, Bangladesh bought Israeli spyware to eavesdrop on its own citizens. The government was blatantly violating the privacy for personal gains. Unfortunately, such petty tricks have become the government's preferred weapon. Over the last decade, intelligence bodies, police and armed forces in Bangladesh have developed a huge appetite for advanced monitoring. They surveil the citizens, hack wireless networks and monitor the internet traffic as well. Even though Bangladesh prohibits accepting bids from Israel, when it comes to cyber weapons, the country is ready to make an exception. The US struggled with an hours-long ground stop, which has finally been lifted now. The Federal Aviation Administration, or the FAA, scrambled to fix a system outage. Only hours ago, all domestic flights were grounded across the US until 9 a.m. local time. Departures were put on hold to validate the integrity of the flight and safety information. But something does not seem to add up. Did a small glitch really lead to such a countrywide chaos? Or is there something more to this? You see, it is a huge deal for a country to ground all its flights. Let me just put things in perspective here. The last time all civilian flights were put on hold was during the 9/11 attack. The FAA ordered all the aircraft to land at the nearest airport when hijacked planes crashed into the World Trade Center and the Pentagon at that time. There were more than 4,500 aircraft in the air, and soon it suspended operations in the national airspace system. Not even a single airplane flew in or out of the US for the next 2 days. But what happened that day was a terror attack, and now a glitch in the system brought all American flights to a standstill. Is this a cyber terror attack? The FAA says that the system that alerts pilots of hazards had stopped updating, and to deal with this one malfunction, the aviation body grounded all the flights. More than 760 flights have been delayed. Another 91 have been cancelled, and these figures might change as I speak. Nearly 21,500 flights are scheduled to depart US airports on Wednesday. About 2.9 million passengers are bearing the brunt of the outage. Travel plans have gone haywire even as the flights slowly resume. The ripple effects of the delay will remain. Shares of the US carriers have already started falling. Southwest Airlines down 2.4%, while Delta Airlines, United Airlines, American Airlines were all down by about 1%. Germany's Lufthansa and Air France saying that they are continuing to operate flights to and from the US, while the French airline says it is monitoring the situation. Because what is happening in the US? A simple glitch in the system has sent the entire aviation sector crumbling. Makes one wonder if it really is an outage. While the US has ruled out a cyber attack, President Joe Biden has ordered an investigation into the matter. Such breaches have become increasingly common. In 2021, Air India suffered a massive cyber attack on its servers. Unknown hackers crashed into the national airlines database. They leaked the data of some 4.5 million flyers. Registered between 2011 and 2021, a decade worth of data was leaked in a moment. And this included credit card details as well as personal details like passport information, contact numbers, and even frequent flyer numbers. And this is just one of the data breaches. Lax data protection laws as well as regulatory requirements have made it very easy for the hackers. Industries like aviation that rely on simple radio frequencies are especially vulnerable to cyber attacks. And what happened in the US is a stark reminder. It may not be a cyber attack, but it still brought the attention to the fact that all these huge industries are heavily reliant on systems. The systems which can suffer glitches, outages, and data breaches. Systems which can be hacked into and manipulated. And from that, let's talk about a different kind of crisis that's gripping America. I'm not talking about the gun menace in the country or its polarization. An opioid epidemic in the United States is only getting worse. And at the heart of this horror story lies an animal tranquilizer. It is called xylazine. It is showing up in street drugs. It's causing skin disease, severe wounds, which could even lead to limb amputation. And it is leaving law enforcement agencies puzzled. First things first, what is xylazine? The animal tranquilizer is known by street names like Tranq, a zombie drug. It came into being in 1962 as an anesthetic for veterinary procedures. In human beings, the drug led to the respiratory depression and low blood pressure issues. So the trials were stopped. It then started being used as an addictive substitute for heroin. And this started most likely in the 2000s. It causes wounds, which, if left untreated, can lead to amputation. It can knock you out for hours, so it can leave the users vulnerable for long periods of time. Let me now tell you what's happening in Philadelphia. More than 90% of the lab-tested dope samples there were positive for xylazine, more than 90%. And this problem is not just limited to Philadelphia. This is happening increasingly in drug-hot zones across the country. A study published in June detected xylazine in the drug supply in 36 states and the District of Columbia. In New York City, xylazine has been found in 25% of the drug samples. The zombie drug is causing horror across America. And how exactly? The animal sedative is being mixed with fentanyl. Fentanyl is a synthetic opioid. It was originally developed as a painkiller for surgery. It has a specific chemical structure with multiple areas that can be modified, often illicitly, and it is being used to bulk up supplies of illicit fentanyl, worsening its impact. Basically, the dangerous sedative is infiltrating the country's illicit drug supply, being found in substances like fentanyl. And this highlights how dangerous the drug supply has really become. In fact, in November, the US Food and Drug Administration warned the healthcare professionals about the drug, and this is what complicates the matters. It does not show up in routine toxicology screens and can be difficult to distinguish it from opioid use. And since it's not an opioid, xylazine may not respond to a standard treatment for opioid overdoses. It's also becoming increasingly prevalent in overdose deaths. And now let me tell you why this is a serious problem. Overdose deaths in the US involving opioids have been on the rise. The number increased from just over 70,000 in 2020 to almost 81,000 in 2021. And here's the bigger worry. Deaths caused by an overdose of synthetic opioids like fentanyl were the biggest contributor to the overall number of deaths. And here's the bigger problem. The actual prevalence of xylazine is unknown. It's not listed as a controlled substance for animals or humans, which means it is not subject to strict monitoring, which is a part of the problem. You see, it has not been on the radar of the federal law enforcement. And now, as it wreaks havoc and leaves the American authorities on the edge, the US needs to up its game to tackle this menace before time runs out. How empowered does your passport make you feel? It depends on which part of the world you live in. And if you stay in Japan, you have the most powerful passport in the world. Which one is the least powerful? What makes a passport powerful? Our next report getting you the answers.
A brand new year and a fresh calendar to fill up with your travel plans. And if the Wuhan virus doesn't throw us back into 2020, 2023 could be the year you could strike some destinations off your travel bucket list. Making travel plans is exciting. The paperwork before you travel, not so much. Applying for a visa is not the most exciting thing to do. It can be a hassle and it is time-consuming. But what if your passport is all you need to go explore the world? Who wouldn't want to skip lengthy visa procedures? Visa-free travel does exactly that, meaning you can visit a nation without going through the painstaking process of completing the visa formalities. There's another benefit, a huge one. You don't have to plan in advance. You can just pack your bags, book your tickets, and go without waiting for a visa and planning in advance for weeks or months. Visa-free travel can happen if the governments of the two nations have signed an agreement which enables this. Or if the destination country unilaterally opened its borders depending on which country you are a citizen of. You have the power to travel visa-free to some countries around the world, and this is what determines how powerful your passport is. Visa on arrival means travelers need to get a visa for entry, which can be obtained upon arrival. And there is a list which ranks passports depending on the number of destinations that the holder can access visa-free. The ranking is published by London-based immigration consultancy Henley & Partners. This is based on data provided by the International Air Transport Association. So which is the world's most powerful passport? For the 5th consecutive year, Japan tops the list. Japan's passport gives visa-free access to 193 destinations. The passports of Singapore and South Korea are ranked second, giving visa-free access to 192 destinations, followed by Germany and Spain, sharing the third position. Countries like the United States, Belgium, New Zealand, Norway, Czech Republic, Switzerland are tied at the 7th position with a visa-free score of 186. What about India? The Indian passport ranks 85th and gives visa-free entry to 59 destinations worldwide. Over the years, the country's rank has been fluctuating and has remained in the 82 to 85 range. Indian passport holders can travel visa-free to 59 destinations like Bhutan, Cambodia, Indonesia, the Maldives, Nepal, Sri Lanka, amongst others. But you might require a visa on arrival in some countries. And at the other end of the spectrum, Afghanistan's passport is the world's worst, ranked at 109 with the visa-free access to just 27. Iraq is the second worst passport, ranked at 108 with a visa-free score of 29. Syria ranks at 107 with a visa-free score of 30. Pakistan finds itself on the world's 5 worst passports list at the 106th spot. Yemen ranks at 105 with a visa-free score of 34. Interestingly, while Japan has been topping the list and has the world's most powerful passport, this in no way means that the Japanese passport is widely used. While it is the most welcomed passport in the world, less than 20% of the population holds the travel document. The global intelligence company Morning Consult conducted a survey of 16,000 adults in 15 countries, according to which 35% of the adult respondents in Japan indicated they did not plan to ever travel for leisure again. Some 15% of South Korean respondents indicated they would never travel again. Whatever your travel plans for the new year and whichever country's passport you hold, let's hope that 2023 is the year you get to explore the destinations you always wanted to, and the Wuhan virus does not end up puncturing those plans. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Time now to get you up to speed with what else made news around the world. Time for Gravitas Global Headlines.
A suicide bomber detonated a device near Afghanistan's foreign ministry in the capital, Kabul, causing more than 20 casualties. Some 1,200 jobs in Britain in danger as Amazon announces it may shut down 3 major warehouses in the UK. The e-commerce major has said it wants to shed 18,000 roles globally. A man with a knife attacked and wounded 6 passengers at the Gare du Nord station in Paris. The man used a homemade blade to attack people while he was shot several times by police. The suspect was then taken to a hospital in a critical condition. The Egyptian pound trades at half its value from March after the central bank intervened for a 3rd time as part of an International Monetary Fund loan agreement. Germany's antitrust regulator criticizes the way Google handles users' data and threatens action against the US tech giant. Uganda declared an end to an Ebola virus outbreak that emerged almost 4 months ago and claimed the lives of 55 people. Tens of thousands of people were under evacuation orders in California as the state was ravaged by a barrage of storms that have left at least 17 people dead. Natu Natu from the movie RRR has created history at the 80th edition of Golden Globes by winning the Best Song in a Motion Picture Award. It is the first Indian song to win a Golden Globe Award. Reigning champion Rafael Nadal will be the top seed at the 2023 Australian Open. World number 1 Carlos Alcaraz withdrew from the event, which makes the Spaniard the men's top seed. Record 9-time champion Novak Djokovic is 2nd seed. Iga Świątek is the top seed in the women's draw, and the Pole will chase her maiden title at the Melbourne Park. Chelsea have completed the loan signing of Atletico Madrid forward João Felix for the remainder of the season. The Blues beat the likes of Arsenal and Manchester United to the signing and will pay the Spanish side around $11 million for Felix.
With that, it's a wrap on this edition of Gravitas. We're leaving you with Gravitas images. Thanks very much for watching.
J'ai 30